Hello everyone, I just wanted to start off the video by saying I know what the title says, and by no means do I think Dead by Daylight is dying or needs to be saved, but rather how since the announcement of the Five Nights at Freddy's chapter, Behavior has gotten way better at addressing stuff and taking the community overall game health into account. And I just wanted to go over it and talk about how Behavior is doing a great job so far, but also some concerns I have for down the line. So let's talk about it, and allow me to set the mood.
I think they did a pretty good job so far.
Firstly, I think it's important to talk about how important Five Nights at Freddy's is to Dead by Daylight. Not just is it the most requested license of all time, and I would say the only rival to that would be Jason, but if it was Dead by Daylight's choice, he probably would have been in the game within the first 5 chapters. But considering the legal trouble he was facing quite a few years ago, and something that still impacts him a little bit now today, I would say that Five Nights at Freddy's has been the most realistic license within the last 4 years. Now, if you want a more in-depth breakdown of the story of eventually getting Five Nights at Freddy's and Dead by Daylight, I have another video on that topic that you can watch. But when Dead by Daylight tweeted out that post, it instantly became their most liked and seen post of all time, even quickly shattering the previous biggest license holder, Resident Evil, by a long shot. Now keep in mind the 3 biggest licensing chapters that you can probably thank for putting Dead by Daylight where it is now, like Halloween, Stranger Things, and Resident Evil. And now we're getting a license more highly requested and popularized than any of them.
Springtrap is one of the most iconic animatronics in the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. Today we're going to talk about why he should be a killer in DBD.
In this video, we're going to be talking about the chances of Springtrap coming into Dead by Daylight as a licensed killer.
Hello everyone, today I'm going to be talking about Springtrap, and specifically Springtrap in Dead by Daylight.
Can this mean that Springtrap is maybe coming to the game?
Hello. Today I wanted to go over the likelihood of Springtrap actually ever coming to Dead by Daylight.
So now, this starts to line up with Springtrap from FNaF, Five Nights at Freddy's, if you don't know.
Today we're having a Springtrap theory in DBD. Now I need to put it out there, I still don't think that Springtrap is going to be coming out into DBD, and as I said in my last video,
Five Nights at Freddy's has such an extreme audience, and now this announcement has built up so much hype that when the time finally comes for its release, the numbers are going to be record-breaking. And because of that, I think Behavior knows that they need to be prepared, because they've already started preparation for the extreme amount of new eyes and potential players on the game, because at the end of the day, that is truly all that matters. Especially because last time they had such high numbers, they kind of shot themselves in the foot. No, I'm not referring to Halloween, because that set the licensing standpoint and put so many eyes on the game. Stranger Things was very cool to see Behavior finally get something from modern horror and our first non-human killer. But no, it was Resident Evil. Now we saw how big licensing chapters from other games could be with Silent Hill, and Resident Evil would definitely draw some numbers, and it definitely did. But the problem was, if anyone was a console player at the time, including myself, the game was basically near unplayable, and as someone who was always playing the game and a big fan of Resident Evil, I was really excited for the Resident Evil chapter. But the problems and the bugs were too unbearable that I even put the game down until the content was fixed. I can imagine a lot of newer players did not want to sit that out, putting down the game as a whole. And if we look to modern Dead by Daylight and ask ourselves, how many bugs are there? Well, there's a lot, and there's a lot of aspects of the game that just makes it unfun. But like I said, Behavior has already gotten started on addressing a lot of these issues, and honestly being way more vocal to the community as a whole. Firstly, their Twitter account has been a lot more fluent with addressing things and engaging with the community. I don't know who the new person behind the account is, I would assume it's Eric, but they're doing an amazing job, especially compared to how Behavior used to talk to us.
But there's a common misconception that by using just kills and escapes to adjust your MMR, it's ignoring skill in the game. This isn't the truth, though. This is false. Kills and escapes are proxies for skill, in that skilled play inherently leads to kills or escapes. Think about sports, and I'll use hockey as an example because I'm Canadian. You wouldn't say they only count wins when placing teams in the standings, but they should also count shots on goal too. A more skilled player takes more shots. And while that's certainly true, it's important to remember that shots lead to goals, which lead to wins. So you can kind of cut the middleman out there. And that's the key, right? Skilled play leads to wins. If they don't, are they really skilled plays? Right? If your skilled play doesn't get you to win, was it really a skilled play in the first place? Everything leads to the same place in DBD.
Thank you, Patrick, for such insightful information. But as I was saying, Behavior has a bunch of new eyes and players coming very soon to Dead by Daylight, and Behavior is going to want to polish up their game before that time comes. And it looks like they've already started. On February 17th, a day before the 18th, which was the day most people thought we were going to get the PTB for the upcoming Tokyo Ghoul chapter. We instead received a roadmap for a major game health update that will be looking into and addressing a lot of the issues that are making Dead by Daylight frustrating, especially for newer players, but just generally overall. They delayed the new upcoming content like the Tokyo Ghoul chapter and the Blood Moon event to be able to do this. Now, I'm not going to break down all the fixes that they're going to make because most of them are very self-explanatory, but something I did want to highlight was anti-camping and tunneling, and even though I bet what they're going to implement hopefully is good and will fix those problems, I think it's a little funny considering way back in the day, Behavior had stated that they had no plans to nerf camping and tunneling as it was considered a strategy, but it just shows that how much Dead by Daylight has truly changed since then. Now, just like everyone else, I am more than excited for this anniversary livestream on May 8th to finally see what we're going to be receiving for the Five Nights at Freddy's chapter. That will be showcased at PAX. That's going to be huge. But in typical Behavior fashion, I expect a segment dedicated to how they listen to the community. And every year, I feel like they do just get a little bit better, but this year, especially more recently, they've absolutely outdone themselves. They're finally giving us looks at upcoming huge changes to killers before they go live, giving us time to give feedback months in advance before they dedicate resources just to disappoint the community. And honestly, I can't help but notice a lot of the good steps that they've been taking are steps that Scott recommended years ago, but that's okay because now they're finally taking those steps and they understand. But telling us months in advance about their plans to change Trickster, along with the highly anticipated Skull Merchant rework that actually seems to make her playable now. But obviously, the huge reason and why they're doing this isn't just because they want to clean it up now, it's because Five Nights at Freddy's is on its way. And I think this Hens video that greatly goes into everything and explains why they would want this chapter to be a success perfectly. Now, everything I've talked about is mostly positive for the most part, but I do have one little issue. I hope this amount of feedback and transparency and engagement with the community is the new normal and not the exception, just because we have Mr. Freddy Fazbear on his way. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I'm a little worried that they're only doing this to build up the game into a good state for the FNaF chapter's release, which obviously is a great thing. But after all that anticipated hype slowly burns down, are we still gonna get the same level of transparency and communication? Well, I sure as hell fucking hope so. I don't see any reason for them to stop what they're doing. I've seen the positive feedback from the community with these changes, so it's something that I expect to go forward. And because we already got part 1 of this huge health update with Tokyo Ghoul that had to push the chapter back 3 weeks in anticipation for Five Nights at Freddy's, I think it's safe to say Five Nights at Freddy's is already saving the integral game health of Dead by Daylight even long before its release, so I can only imagine the long-lasting positive impact that this chapter will leave on the game. But to keep up with the consistency, Behavior will need to be on top of it. They will need to be ready for anything. They will need to be careful. They will need to be calculated. They will need to be smart. They will need to be... Anyways, I just wanted to thank you all for watching. I know this is a little different from the regular videos I make, but I just really wanted to talk about this, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, please check out some of my other content. I make chapter retrospective and speculation videos. And typically, this is where I ask, Behavior, I typically ask you to add a Phantom of the Opera skin for Chucky, but don't worry, I'm still gonna do that. But now that you've shown that you're welcome to manga and anime horror collaborations, we need to have a discussion about Death Note, because Behavior, please! I need him, Behavior, I need him. But also Behavior, please give Chucky a Phantom of the Opera skin. Thank you all so much for watching, and goodbye.